Hi everyone, welcome to video 1. We are going to start prepping our piece, and this is the piece I chose for the Nebula tutorial. And I'm going to jump right into prepping, and I want to tell you guys that there's no right, there's a lot of different ways that you can prep furniture, okay? So I'm going to show you one way. And we're going to start by sanding, and we are going to start by cleaning this piece. If you are already familiar with prepping, you probably can just skip this video. If you don't know how to prep your furniture, this is going to be a good video for you to watch. I haven't touched this piece. I haven't cleaned it. I haven't wiped it down. I haven't done anything. So I am going to I'm going to take the hardware off and show you how I do that. I'm going to show you which pieces I take off. And I'm going to also explain why I chose this piece of furniture to paint. So I'm going to do all of that. So in this video, I'm going to sand this piece. I'm going to take the hardware off. I'm going to take that backboard off, and I'm going to clean it. I am going to clean my piece with TSP, White Lightning Cleaner from Dixie Belle. I also really like to use Crud Cutter Gloss Off as a cleaner. You could use vinegar and water as cleaner. You could use denatured alcohol, 50-50 mix of denatured alcohol and water and clean your piece. There is not just one way to clean your piece. The only thing is with TSP, which we're going to use White Lightning, we have to rinse it. And generally speaking, you probably should rinse all of your cleaner. I've used Crud Cutter Gloss Off for years, and I've never rinsed it afterwards, but if it makes you feel more comfortable, you can always rinse your Crud Cutter Gloss Off afterwards too. I also want to say, if you guys have taken my classes before, I have made the statement that Crud Cutter Gloss Off is my favorite cleaner, and it is. I like Crud Cutter Gloss Off because it's quick, it's easy, and it's ready to go in 10 minutes. Where right now, today, I'm going to use TSP White Lightning Cleaner from Dixie Belle. I mixed about a tablespoon in this bottle of water with hot water, and I keep it in here. This is White Lightning Cleaner. And the reason I started using the White Lightning TSP cleanser is because it's more cost efficient. Crud Cutter Gloss Off can get expensive. This stuff, I think this is $5 on the Dixie Belle site, and this lasts forever. You mix it with water, where this much Crud Cutter Gloss Off is gonna cost me $8, and I might get a month out of it. So that's why I just changed my method, because it's more cost efficient. So if you wanna use Crud Cutter Gloss Off, I do prefer it because I can just clean this piece and then be ready to go. This, I have to clean it, I have to rinse it, and then I also have to wait at least 6 hours for it to just dry out. So that being said, let's get started. And when you guys have questions, please put them in the comments, tag Leah Rex, or you can always send me a private message on my page, and I will respond that way too. I would prefer that you put them in the comments, because then if someone else has the same question, they can ask. But sometimes I don't always get the notifications, and I will be coming through and checking, but if you need to know right now, just go ahead and send me a message. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I have a flathead screwdriver, and this piece has hardware. I'm gonna lower the camera a little. All right. So the reason I chose this piece is because it has nice flat doors, and it also has this nice framing here. It's got just a little bit of framing detail, and so I'm gonna kind of fade my Nebula. It's gonna be darker in the edges and then lighter in the middle. So this kind of has a good guiding line for me, and that's why I chose this piece. You can also just choose a door frame that maybe has more, it's like this, but it's just flat in the middle. It doesn't have this detailing, right? If this detailing wasn't here, this would still be a good piece. So that's why I chose this piece here. So I'm gonna basically just take my hardware off. Now, this hardware right here has a plate. It has a nail in it. So I'm just gonna use a flat putty knife and just pop it out. I'm going to save this hardware and I'm going to paint it. The other thing on buffets that I've learned is these baseboards come off, these backboards, right? So there's usually just a screw in the back, and I'm just gonna unscrew it, and I'm gonna take this off, and that's gonna make it easier to stain this top if I so choose, to paint this top, and also to paint this. And they're usually pretty dirty, so. So see, this comes right off, and we'll go ahead and clean this and sand it. And if you can see right here, there's missing trim pieces. I don't fix that. I leave it. It just adds to the character of the furniture. If you want to fix that, you could fill that in with wood filler or Bondo, but I don't. I leave it. It's an older piece, and this look isn't supposed to be super clean. It's just character. So we're just gonna roll with that. So now I have all my hardware off. I leave my hinges on, and I paint over them with this look, because there's no way, you know, actually with this Nebula look, like with this piece, I could go ahead and take these doors off and paint them flat. You could do that if you want to. I'm not. I'm gonna just paint over the hinges. And then that chalk paint acts as a primer, and then I'll put Rub and Buff on it, and that's how I'll do my hinges. So I'm not gonna worry about taking the whole thing apart. If I was painting, like say I was painting this clean white, I would take the hinges off, and I would number them, right? I would write, you know, right hinge 1. I would carve it. I use a needle tool that I just had. I use this needle tool. This is from my pottery class, and I would write, you know, like I would write R1, because the hinges, they kind of wear into place. So I want to make sure I put the hinges right back where they are. So that's a tip if you're painting something just a plain color. We're going to leave the hinges on. So I haven't decided if I'm going to stain this top yet. I probably will end up painting it. So I'm just going to give it a sanding. I'm going to sand the top down. I usually always sand my tops with an Orbit sander. This is just a Black & Decker Orbit sander. You can order it off of Amazon. This one was my dad's. It doesn't matter what kind of sander you use. You can hand sand it. This is just what I have, so this is what I use, and I hook it up to a shop vac, so it's gonna be a little bit loud. The general, when I'm prepping, I usually use 120 grit sandpaper, which is medium grit. And this has like the holes in it, so when I put it on here and hook it up to the vacuum, all the dust will go in. So it's just kind of handy because I'm not sanding outside, I'm sanding in my shop. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Another thing I do with my hardware is I will take this inside and I will soak it in 50-50 water and vinegar for a couple hours, and then I'll scrub it with Barkeeper's Friend. I have a blog post on that, and I will link it in here so that you guys know how to clean your hardware if you so choose. You can also just get new hardware. So those are, you know, some options that you have. All right, so let's get started. So I haven't cleaned this piece, but I'm gonna go ahead and paint it. Or I'm sorry, I haven't cleaned this piece yet. I'm gonna sand it before I clean it. Okay, so I just hooked this up like this, and it's really important if you are using an Orbit sander. You're gonna see, I'm gonna turn everything on at once, but I'm going to start with this on here, setting on here, and then I'm gonna turn it on. If I turn this on and then put it in, it's gonna cut into the wood, and you're gonna be able to see the ring marks if you do decide to stain this. So it's really important to start with it on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and sand this. Okay, so you kind of saw I sanded the sides. Basically, let me show you guys the top here. If you can see the top, this was a really old finish. So really, all I did was take off, I really just broke up a lot of the old finish and took it off, okay? It came off really easy. So now I'm gonna go ahead and use a hand sander. I'm gonna use a sanding sponge. Now you can use sandpaper, just paper. You can go buy sandpaper. It's your preference. I prefer the sanding sponges, but I have, like when my husband helps me, he prefers the paper. So it's whatever you prefer. I'm going to show you what I buy and what I prefer. I buy these at Harbor Freight. You can get them on Amazon. You can get them at Menards, I think, but Harbor Freight has the best price. There's, you know, a pack like this is like $7. I'm going to use medium grit, and I'm actually, you can also get them in like an angled one like this. And I actually just keep, those are my new sponges, and I usually try to keep those for when like if I have to sand over like a finish or paint for like more fine detail work. I keep these old ones here and I just reuse them. So this one has an angle, so it's really good for getting in these creases. And I like to sand my pieces because they, it just gives you a better product. And also this one's so old, some of the finish is really like coming off. So it's important to get all those loose polyurethane or lacquer or whatever they use off of this piece so that the paint adheres properly. Now chalk paint is like no prep paint. You don't have to prep it, but I mean, we're really getting a lot of the old finish off. So I recommend that you sand your piece for a more professional finish. Just getting any gunk off. And as you can see, I'm not really sanding it a lot. I'm just really getting the shine off. There's a sand back here because it's dirty. You can also hand sand this if you so choose, you know, just like this. You don't have to get the Orbit sander. You know, you just sand it like this. It just takes longer. Also, you really should be wearing a mask. I have an entire box, but you should wear just a mask. It'd be really hard for me to wear a mask and talk to you guys though. So, but when I do prep furniture and I'm not on camera, I definitely wear a mask when I know where they are. I'll wear a mask like this, one of these, or just a paper one. So I'm just gonna go ahead, I'm gonna just sand this whole piece. And all right, so I kind of just sanded the whole piece and buffed out any imperfections. I sanded most of the gloss off in most of the areas that are going to get the highest traffic, and anywhere where I saw like loose and peeling polyacrylic. It didn't take me more than like 3 to 5 minutes. It's really worth it to take that step. So now it's kind of a little bit dusty. I'm ready to use my TSP. So what I'm gonna start with, and it's important to wear gloves because the TSP is a chemical. And I am using White Lightning from Dixie Belle, which is I think it's just TSP. I'm pretty sure it's just TSP. I'm just gonna brush off the excess dust. I'm gonna start by cleaning the inside because I didn't sand there, so it's not gonna be as dirty. And remember, this is just TSP. I haven't been inside here yet. And you'll see like it has like a white residue. So I'm just gonna spray it and I'm gonna let it settle. All those chemicals just kind of, so I'm not breathing them in. It is a good idea to wear a mask when you're cleaning too. And like I said, it's just hard for me to wear a mask and talk and teach at the same time. But when I'm sanding and I don't have a vacuum on it, especially when I don't have a vacuum on it, I wear a mask. So, all right, so it's settled. I'm starting with a wet rag, cleaning it. While I'm cleaning, I'm assessing my piece. I'm seeing if there's anything that needs to be fixed. I'm seeing, you know, if painting the inside is something I would want to do or something I could do. I probably will not paint the inside. So when I'm cleaning with TSP, especially, I keep a rag of, or a bucket of like warm water while I'm cleaning with the TSP to rinse my rag. And then I will change the water and I will get clean water when I rinse. So right now we're still just using TSP. I have a toothbrush here. It's like any toothbrush will do. This is like a coarse grit one, not coarse grit, but coarse, hard bristles. And I'm gonna get in all these details. And I don't think I mentioned, I'm gonna actually clean the top and then move down just because of gravity. I don't think I mentioned the reason you do clean is to get off any like grease, oil, and dirt that you don't see. So that is why we clean, because paint won't stick to the oil, because paint's water-based. And furniture has had pledge on it, it's had hand grease, anything. So we really just want to make sure we're cleaning it thoroughly. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep doing this. Okay, so I don't usually paint the backs of my piece unless they're like really need it. This does not need it, but I do wipe them down. And this has a nail here. I'm gonna go ahead and pound this nail in because I don't want it to get caught on my rag or anything else. So, okay, so this just has a nail right here. I'm just gonna pound it in. If there's any other nails that need to go in, I hit them. I'm not gonna spray the back with TSP. If it came out of like a really nasty barn or a house, I would, but this was a clean house and it's a clean piece. So I'm just gonna wipe any like dust off it. And I will put my stamp on the back of this. This is Northwestern MFG Co. I'm gonna go ahead and clean my wheels. These wheels are cool, they're metal. I've never seen metal wheels before, but I'm just gonna clean them a little bit. And I won't be replacing them, I will be leaving them. In fact, when I bought this, the guy said to me, he said, you don't see wheels like that anymore. And I'm like, I see wheels like that all the time. And I meant like I see wood wheels. I've never seen metal wheels. So it actually is pretty cool. This is going to be an exciting one because the people had asked me to send them a picture when it was done. So it's always fun when you buy furniture from people who want to see what you do with it. That makes it more fun. Okay, so we're going to turn this around. You can see some of the TSP. It's white, that's fine. Let me show you how dirty this bucket is. This is my rinse. This was my TSP water like that I just rinsed my rag in. So I'm gonna go get a clean bucket of water and we're gonna rinse this. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these rags and get clean rags to rinse. Okay, so I'm back. We are going to rinse. I didn't get hot water, I got lukewarm water because I want to note that these are glue and hot water might compromise them, so that's why we're using like lukewarm water. I also have a spray bottle of just water, and that's really good for like rinsing in these spots here. I can use the stream and really rinse it really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and just wet my rag. I'll get my rag wet and I'm gonna just rinse this. I'm rinsing all the TSP off. And you want to rinse really good. You'll know if you don't rinse really good because your primer won't stick. I'm gonna stick my bucket under here. And I have this on stream, and I'm just gonna stream it on. And you see all that TSP just coming off. I'm gonna open this door because I don't want that water sitting. I am using a lot of water on this piece. I don't know that it's necessary that you use so much water. I like to really get them clean, but as you can see, I am going to put a fan on this and let it dry overnight. So if you wanted to paint this, clean it and paint it in one day, use Crud Cutter Gloss Off. It's gonna be a lot quicker. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, you just saw me like spray the whole thing with water. I'm just gonna dry it. This is wood. You don't want water to sit on wood. So the timestamp is about an hour right now. So I'm just gonna dry this off and then we're gonna let it set overnight. If I see white residue, I know it's TSP, so I'm just re-rinsing some of the spots that have white residue and I must have missed. Hey you guys. All right, so our piece is dry, it's clean, and it's ready to be primed. So I'm going to take a second and talk about the primers that I recommend and why I use different primers. So first of all, you can use whatever kind of primer you want. These are my favorite choices. For this piece specifically, I am going to use Dixie Belle Boss, which stands for blocks, odors, stains, and bleed through. And I'm gonna use it in clear. I'm gonna use it in clear because I want a little bit of my wood to show in the end product. I'm okay with a little bit of wood showing. And the base color is going to be a dark blue. So it's gonna be easier to cover this piece with a dark color over wood than it is white, and most primers are white. So that's why I'm choosing a clear primer. Dixie Belle has a clear primer. Wise Owl also has a clear primer. Other than that, I don't know anyone else who has a clear primer. So Boss is a really good primer. The other primer you can use just in general is, I buy this at the hardware store. It's Zinsser Bin Synthetic. You want to make sure you get the synthetic shellac. And this is really good for pieces that you think you're going to have a lot of bleed through on. This also, it has the synthetic shellac, gives you a little bit more working time. If you just get the pure shellac, it dries super quick, and I think it's harder to work with. So this is another one. This is not water-based, or this is synthetic or shellac-based. So you can't use your sprayer when you don't want to start with a wet brush or anything. But this is a good one. It does dry a little bit more slick. So I do find it harder to use chalk paint over because it's slick. So this is an option that you have. If you have a slick surface like an IKEA dresser, or a very glossy piece, you're gonna wanna use Slick Stick. Dixie Belle has this product here. It's called Slick Stick, and it's a primer for surfaces that are a little bit more glossy and that are more slick, like countertops, or like I said, IKEA cabinets. So that's gonna help you with that. And you would just wanna use this. It's white, so if you had bleed through, which is like that oily tannins coming through your wood, you would know because it would show up on the white. It would show up on the primer because the primer's white. The other one, don't let me confuse you, but another one I like is, this isn't as great for bleed through, but it works and it comes in gray, is this Zinsser 123 primer. That's another one, just to give you guys options for this look specifically. I would recommend that you use Dixie Belle Clear Primer. So, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna prime this in front of you. This is an easy one to work with. This is clear. I'm using my Dixie Belle mini flat brush. You're gonna wanna use a good brush with your primer because your paint job is only gonna be good as your prep work and your base coat. So you wanna make sure that you're using a high quality brush on your primer. Don't just use a chip brush on your primer. You can also use like a pretty brush, you know, whatever. I really like the Dixie Belle brushes for the synthetics. The Dixie Belle carries my favorite synthetic line, and Paint Pixie carries my favorite natural bristle line. So that's kind of how I choose which brush I'm gonna use. I really like Dixie Belle synthetics, and for like natural bristle blending, I really like Paint Pixie. You gotta have the right tool to do the job. But no, seriously, like if you don't want to order a brush, go to the store, hardware store, and get like I would suggest a Purdy would work just fine too. I'm gonna start on the side here. This piece doesn't really need any wood filler, so I have skipped that step, and I'll share a link to my YouTube video on how to use Bondo and wood filler if you guys have issues for if you guys need help with fixing a piece with like Bondo and wood filler. So I'm just gonna mist my brush, start with it a little bit wet. Just gonna give this a good stir. One of the things I'm gonna do right now too is I'm gonna tape my wheels off because I don't want to paint them. So I'm just gonna put a little tape on them. So this wood is clean, it's dry, and it's ready for primer. This part's easy. I'll do this side with you and then we'll fast forward through the rest. But basically when I'm priming, I just kind of want to make sure my lines are going all in the same direction, right? I just want it to be a nice, clean, primed look. There is some imperfections on this piece and really like, you know, some like dents and scratches, and that just goes with the, you know, the wear of the piece. I'm not going to worry too much about them. You know, if there was like a big scratch on the side, I would fix it with wood filler. If there's chipped veneer, I would fix it with wood filler. But there's not. This is a pretty good piece, and I really try to make the effort to buy pieces that don't need to be fixed, because that it's a waste of time a lot of time, or it's just, I don't know, I feel like I have better quality when I buy better quality pieces. And even if I'm getting like $50 off a piece and it needs a lot of work, it's just not worth the time unless it's quick fixes. I guess those are just judgment calls you have to make for yourself. So I just want to make sure my primer is not dripping in any spots. I like to do this with my brush. Okay, so the primer is also going to help fill in any of like the wood grain. It's going to really help alleviate any wood grain. So I'm gonna go ahead right now. I usually do this while I'm priming because then I'm deciding how I'm gonna paint it. But I don't know if I'm gonna stain this top, so I'm gonna go ahead and just put a piece of tape right here along this edge where it kind of cuts off, like where I would actually stain the top. I'm gonna go ahead and just tape it off. And so I don't get any primer in there in case I wanna stain it, because you really can't stain over primer. sometimes there's like dried pieces of primer or debris from your brush or your piece. I just try to get them off, and if I can't like get those little, you know, like the little debris things that like come out in your paint, you can sand in between your coats of primer. So I'm just trying to keep kind of like my brush strokes going in the same direction as the wood grain. So that's up and down here, that's side to side here, and then I'll do the same thing throughout the whole piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and just continue priming, doing it the same way. And if you guys have any questions, of course, just put them in the comments, okay? I am gonna paint the insides of the doors, so I primed them. I'm not gonna prime the edges until it's done. Actually, I probably won't prime the edges at all because I don't want them to stick. So I'm just gonna get the insides of the doors and the fronts, and I probably won't do the edges because then they just rub and they stick, and it's not a good thing. So now my doors are shut, and I'm gonna go ahead and prime them. Okay, so as I'm starting this door, I want to show you guys, I have my paintbrush loaded up with primer. I'm gonna just tap on these details like this. You saw me do it over here. And that is called steepling. And that's just kind of getting the paint in there, and then I just kind of smooth it out. But that gets it in all the grooves. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. All right, so we are gonna let this primer dry, but I notice I have a drip here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and, you know, just check the piece, make sure I don't have any other drips, and then I'm gonna let it dry, and then we'll come back.